Hello, hello, hello. This is your boy Brandon Cryer, aka Ear Fun of Entertainment, and we are back with another review. And the review we got today is House of the Dragon Episode 8. Now, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you think you would be interested in content like this, House of the Dragon reviews, Andor reviews, Rings of Power reviews, all the big name IP shows and movies that we'll be dropping in the future, reviews for those, trailer reactions, entertainment news updates. If you would be interested in content like that, subscribe to the Brandon Cryer Network and always let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode. Now let's get into episode 8 of House of the Dragon. Now we start the episode with another time jump, and we're notified of it as the audience that it's a 6-year time jump by the dialogue Rhaenys speaks to the Maester about how she hasn't seen her husband Corlys in 6 years. And before I go more into that, because of this 6-year time jump, somehow, and I know I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but somehow Aemond looks older than Aegon now for some reason, like a lot older. I don't know. And one other thing before we get into it. Every time I see Paddy Considine in the opening credits, I get a sigh of relief because I'm like, oh, at least I get another episode of Paddy Considine, King Viserys, because he is honestly one of my favorite characters. But I honestly do think this might be it for him. And I'm going to get into it near the end and explain what happens and why I think that. But honestly, I could be wrong with that too, because I've been saying that for weeks that I think he was going to die. And he somehow, every time I see that opening credits, I see his name. So jumping back into the story, we see Rhaenys talking to the Maester, and the Maester basically is telling Rhaenys that while he was out there, that Lord Corlys is on his way back, but he's severely injured, and that I think he might have gotten his throat slashed or something like that, and then he fell off the boat into the water. They were able to bring him back in, but he is basically burning, like has like a crazy fever, and he's burning up from within, and he's on his way back to Driftmark. So this opening scene, because they've heard of this news and that he's really injured, the idea of succession is obviously the biggest thing that is always talked about in Game of Thrones and in House of the Dragons. So we see Vaemond talk to Rhaenys and be like, we need to defend our bloodline, House Velaryon. And if we let Rhaenyra's kids, Lucius, I think his name's Lucius, which is supposed to be Rhaenor's son, but obviously we know as the audience, it's Harwin Strong's sons. Those two boys are Harwin Strong's sons. Everybody knows that they're not Rhaenor's sons, so we see Vaemond being like, no, Driftmark needs to pass to someone in our bloodline. And if Corlys is passing, it should go to me because I'm the only one of actually in his blood. I'm the only one still of his blood and related to him because his daughter's dead, his son's dead, and the rightful heir to him isn't part of their bloodline. So Rhaenys basically responds to him and is like, that could be taken as treason and a play for power, Vaemond, if you talk like that. And he was like, and he explains, that's not my focus, but his main focus is that if this Driftmark should pass down to someone of Valyrian blood. So he brings up that he's gonna go to King's Landing and talk to the Queen and the Hand of the King in their civil war right now. There's warring sides. So he was like, if I could get their backing with me, I'm gonna go see if I could get them to just basically hand Driftmark to me because I should be the next one in line, and I'm gonna go petition for that. So we see that Daemon and Rhaenyra are warned about this plan of Vaemond to go there and ask for this petition, so they decide to head to King's Landing also. We finally see the two sides kind of come together after all these years. We see Rhaenyra, Daemon, and the boys landing King's Landing, and they're greeted, and they're supposed to be greeted by the Queen, but something comes up. The Queen is actually notified by one of the servant workers there that an incident happened with Aegon, and go to find out that he actually ended up raping a serving girl that was like helping in his room. So we see a scene where the Queen is talking to the girl and seeing, and she's understanding where she's coming from, and she's feeling bad for her because she doesn't condone her son's behavior at all, and she's really been vocal about that. But at the same time, she has to protect her son's image if he's going to take up the throne. So he's basically like, if this gets around, people could look at it as a certain way, and things could happen if that happens. So you're going to have to keep it on the hush hush. Ends up giving her some gold, and it then cuts to her talking to Aegon being like, what are you doing? Like, you're no son of mine. Why are you acting like this? Just furthering the kind of character that he is. And honestly, like, of the two brothers, I really like Aemond, and it's not because he's just like he's mad and brooding, but it does seem like he has more to him. And obviously, like, when we see him later on pop off, it's just built up kind of like trauma and insults that he had to go through in the past that really came forward and blew up in this moment. So there's a lot of layers to Aemond, and I'm interested to see how he plays into this entire Dance of the Dragons and the whole Civil War. So after we get just a little bit of time of Rhaenyra and Daemon and her boys coming from Dragonstone and kind of settling in, we see Vaemon arrive from Driftmark to make his petition. So we get this excellent scene in the throne room where we see Otto Hightower on the chair looking mad comfortable, looking like, this is where I belong. And we see the Queen, Aegon, Aemon gathered, and a lot of people gathered with Rhaenyra, Daemon gathered. And we see Vaemon come in, and Otto Hightower says to the room, all right, we're going to take petitions for the incident at hand, which is the succession of Driftmark. So we see Vaemon give this speech about bloodline, and it was kind of like a hint to, and it was kind of like a callback to the speech that he was giving at Rhaenyra's funeral the episode before, where Daemon kind of chuckled and laughed in the middle of it. And I never took it in before because I was like, why is he laughing? Because he did love Rhaenyra. I wonder why he's laughing. But we see that he was kind of laughing to make it less awkward for the boys. But in this moment where he's giving the petition, he brings up the bloodline and how they've survived the doom and that he wants to preserve his bloodline and someone in his bloodline should be on the throne. And we actually see Rhaenyra kind of interrupt him, and she gets stopped, and she actually is about to get her turn for her petition, but we see King Viserys actually get up from his bed, because there was a scene earlier where Rhaenyra and Daemon were talking to King Viserys after a really long time. King Viserys is like, I haven't seen you guys in so long. Obviously he's in bed, really struggling with pain, on milk of the poppy, so he's like out of it. But we also see more layers of Daemon, and I honestly love Matt Smith, and I'm really starting to like Daemon's character. Actually, I've always liked Daemon's character. What am I talking about? But I'm starting to like him more and more and more the more layers that we get of this character, because we see when he's seeing his brother, like, it's hard for him to watch. Like, it's hard for him to see his brother go through this, even though he's been a little shit and he's been causing him trouble for a while. He loves his brother. You could tell that they do really love each other, and even though he thinks that he should have been the one named king after him, he still loves his brother. So seeing him like this was really hard for him, and you could really just tell on his face and his facial expressions that Matt Smith was getting off. Excellent acting. Honestly, Matt Smith, you're a monster. So jumping ahead, we see that King Viserys decided not to take the milk of poppy so he could be more functioning and more aware of things. So we actually see him come down to the throne room and sit on the chair. He says to Otto, I'm going to take the throne today. Kind of like a little jab, like, get out my seat. And he was like, why are we hearing petitions for a matter that's already been decided, right? So to him, Lucius, Rhaenyra's son, should be the heir to Driftmark. No long talking. And then he was like, if anything, Rhaenys should know Corlys's wishes. So she comes up and basically says what he was saying from the last episode. Even though Rhaenys may not agree with it, but she basically reinstates what Corlys was saying to Rhaenys in front of the fireplace in episode 7 about history remembers names, not blood. So if Lucius has Lucius Valerian, people are going to remember the name Valerian, regardless of whatever that bloodline is, right? So that was his point, and Rhaenys makes that point clear, basically backing Rhaenyra. And then there was a scene before where Rhaenyra wanted to make an offer where she was like, I want to betroth my sons to, I think it's Corlys's and Rhaenys' daughter. I think, and I could be completely wrong. Let me know in the comments who they ended up pairing marriage-wise in this episode. But she came to him with this offer, and she brings that offer up again in the throne room to kind of reinforce like her husband's wishes and how she's going to be basically backing Rhaenyra in a sense. Vaemon doesn't take too kindly to this, and we see him kind of explode at the king again, and the king's like, I should take your tongue for this. But right before this, he actually looks at the two boys, and we hear Daemon be like, say it, and he yells out and he calls them bastards. And then he goes a step further and he actually calls Rhaenyra a whore. And then we see Daemon just come behind him and just whoom, swing his sword, head chopped off. So Vaemon is just dead, gone. So there's just bare people from that bloodline, Valerian bloodline, just dying off right now. So I don't know, the Valerian numbers seem to be dwindling down now that he's gone. And they just disarmed Matt Damon and he just went about his business. My jaw was dropped at that because I didn't see that coming at all. And I'm wondering if Rhaenys was even thrown off by that. But they kind of moved past that scene into a dinner scene where earlier on we see King Viserys be like, I want to have a dinner with all of my family. Like, I haven't had a dinner with everybody in the same room in so long. So we get to the scene where there's a lot of tension. We feel it. But then there's such a good moment with King Viserys, and he basically has a speech about where he takes off his mask and he's just like, the realm won't survive, or the realm won't be able to continue well if the two sides, the two houses of the dragon aren't working together. And he's like, if not for the realm, he's like, put aside your grudges and your petty differences for this old man, right? So it was just a nice moment, just really reinforcing and highlighting the type of man and character that he is. Even though people may see him as like a pushover or not a strong king, you could just see that he's a kind and wise king in a sense. So as the episodes go along, I'm really growing to love King Viserys as a character. After we see the speech, there's these cuts of the dinner of just nice moments between everyone. It actually seems like everyone's having a good time, but you know this is House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. You know that shit isn't gonna last. So we see King Viserys start to get woozy and out of it. So he gets carried out of the room. Some more servants bring in like a pig in front of Aemon, and we see the younger brother laugh at Aemon. Remember they dressed up the pig as a dragon and they played that joke on him being like, this is your dragon. So Lucius, being a little younger, still being a little immature, was kind of laughing at him, and Aemon was like, nah. So we see Aemon stand up and he starts to give a speech, and he's basically like, to my nephews, smart, handsome, strong boys, to the strong boys. And we see the older brother be like, say that again. Kind of goes after him. There's a little beef. Aegon slams the little brother's head down, and then they get separated by the guards. So we see that there's tension between the cousins, and I'm pretty sure that the majority of the Dance of the Dragons, I think, and the civil war takes place between the children. I could be completely wrong, but I know when the kids get a little bit older, there's a lot of tension there. Because even once that separates, we see that Rhaenyra and Alicent have a nice moment and still seem like they're civil towards each other. But I'm wondering if that's going to change when I discuss what happens at the end. And before I move into that, the entire dinner, we see Aegon trying to hit on Lucas's, I think it's Lucas's, Rhaenyra's oldest son, betrothed. Again, just highlighting that there's going to be tension between the children. And I really think this episode was a little quieter and a little slower than the other episodes, but I think this episode was there to really paint out that there's going to be beef between the kids, and that's where the actual real beef kind of resides. Even though at the end we see King Viserys in his bed struggling with pain, and we see Alicent come with Milk of the Poppy, and we actually see him really start to lose it. And maybe it was because he was off of Milk of the Poppy for the whole day so he could kind of function, so it was too much for him. So we see him kind of be like, it is you, because earlier on, Rhaenyra asked him a question, because she comes back later on after her and Daemon visit him to just see him. And this was another nice moment. And Rhaenyra was amazing in this episode, especially this scene. She was, you never really see her that emotional, because she obviously likes to come off as strong and not emotional. But you really got to see Rhaenyra's emotions come through when she was looking at her dad struggling, and she just being like, and trying to get advice from him about, you're trying to keep the realm together, but you naming me heir divided it completely. And she was like, I never wanted it. But she's like, if the Song of Ice and Fire is real and you think I should have it, let me know. Please let me know. And he doesn't respond, and she just gets emotional. So later on in the episode, we see him randomly bring it up to Alicent as she gives him the Milk of Pop. And he's like, Aegon, the dream that he had of the vision in the north, it's true. Aegon, the prince that was promised. So it was kind of misinterpreted by Alicent, but the way Alicent took it, he was like, it's you. You have to do this. And she took it as, okay, my son Aegon has to be on the throne, and for me, and I have to carry out my king's wishes, which is that he wants Aegon on the throne, not Rhaenyra. So she took that and probably didn't get the right context to it, because he's not even in the right mind to actually say it correctly. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen in episode 9, and how that information, or that little bit of knowledge that he said to her, is going to change how she's going to behave towards them. Because remember, Rhaenyra was like, I'm going to drop the kids off back in Dragonstone and fly back here on Dragonback. So I'm wondering if she's going to start acting different, or if she's going to be like, oh, he told me about this vision, Song of Ice and Fire, and was like, Aegon needs to be up there. So I'm very, very interested to see what's going to happen now. And again, the way the episode ended, she walked away, Alicent walked away, and it cut to Viserys, and it was a view of over top of him, and he was breathing, and then it cuts, and you just hear no more breathing. And I've been saying for weeks that I think he was going to pass away, but I honestly think that this might be the moment where he actually passes away. And I really think that next episode is going to be his funeral. And now that Alicent has that information and she's confused, and Rhaenyra obviously has the knowledge that she has, I really think that episode 9, in true Game of Thrones fashion, where episode 9 is the real pop off episode, and then episode 10 is kind of like the resolution and what's going to happen and lead into next season. I really think episode 9 is going to be the episode where the civil war pops off and the sides are completely divided, and maybe there's no going back, because now there's no king there's no King Viserys to kind of rein everyone back. So I'm very, very interested in next episode, and I'm interested to see if they're going to highlight more of the beef between the children. So, like I said, another good episode. This show is running on all cylinders right now. I think this episode was a little slower, but I think the reason for that was because they needed to lay out a lot of stuff, because episode 9 is going to be the pop off point. Acting amazing from all the cast members. Story, amazing. Dialogue, elite. Cinematography, the sets look gorgeous. Honestly, this show is absolutely amazing. This shit is a Barry Bonds home run hit. So that is it for my House of the Dragon episode 8 review. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. If you think you'd be interested in content like this, House of the Dragon reviews, Andor reviews, Rings of Power reviews, trailer reactions, entertainment news updates, subscribe to the Brandon Cryer Network. You will not regret it. And let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode and what you think is going to happen in episode 9 and how you think is going to play out. And if you think that King Viserys is even dead, because I've been saying for weeks that I think he's going to die and somehow he's still surviving. So let me know in the comments if you think that he's going to be there even for next episode and that I'm wrong again. Let me know in the comments. Appreciate you for watching. Catch you next time.